atmosphere around you. There is an atmosphere that you live in. There's an atmosphere of thoughts that you're in. There's an atmosphere of emotions that you're in. There's an atmosphere of conversations that you're in. And that atmosphere in your life around you, it is either shaping you or you are shaping it. It's either shaping you or you are shaping it. Now think about a child when a baby's first born. They're a blank slate. And when you were first born, you were this blank slate. You have some genetics and you have some of those things, but more than anything, you have people around you and you're born into an atmosphere. Like a baby is placed in a cradle, that baby is also placed into an atmosphere around the child. And over our lifetime, we end up sorting out, is this the atmosphere I want to keep? Or is this the atmosphere I want to change? And so, in our life, we just need to be so overwhelmed with God that nothing else can overwhelm us. That's the word that came out of our revival, our recent revival, that we need to be so overwhelmed with the work of God, so overwhelmed with Jesus, so overwhelmed with God's Spirit, so overwhelmed with God's Word, that nothing else can overwhelm us. Because you're going into situations in your life that sometimes are overwhelming. But you don't have to be overwhelmed by the atmosphere that's overwhelming you. You can overwhelm the atmosphere around you instead of being overwhelmed by it. When I talk to people and counsel with them and pray with them, most of the time what people are dealing with is they're being affected by something. An atmosphere that they've come in contact with. And maybe for them, it's the whole world. They don't even know that there's a different world than the atmosphere of their mind and their heart and their emotions and their experience. But how do I come back against it without it becoming so much a part of me that that's all I think exists? And so I've got to learn how to shape the atmosphere around me like a thermostat, instead of being shaped by it like a thermometer. And so, what atmosphere, is a good question for this year. What atmosphere around you? What atmosphere around you is making you sick or causing you pain? Because that is it's a big key to your transformation that God wants to do in your life. It's a big key. Those things aren't there by accident. There's nothing that's come into your life that didn't come through the hands of Jesus. He allows things in our lives, and he doesn't allow everything in because we couldn't even live through all the craziness in the world. But he's allowed a certain kind of sickness in your life and around you in order for you to become a healer of all of the sicknesses that are like that in the world. You think about doctors. You know, we got these doctors that are specialists in different things. You know, whatever is the pain or sickness that you've walked through in your life, God wants you to become a specialist in healing that, instead of becoming a victim of that forever in your life. And so, in this January series where we're saying, God, there's a one word that I want to ask God to give to me. How do I figure out what that word is? What's the word? It's a prophecy in my life. I want to say this year it's not a resolution, it's a lens to look through the year through. It's not something I'm trying to create, it's something I'm trying to receive from God. And God's word to me has got to be the opposite of the sickness and pain that's around me or even in me. And so today's message is called this: change the atmosphere with one word. Can you feel that with me? Change the atmosphere with one word. Turn to the person and hit them on the shoulder next to you and say, you can change the atmosphere. You can change the atmosphere. And so the first thing you have to do to change the atmosphere is call it what it is. You got to be able to call that atmosphere what it is. And here's a powerful thing about naming, okay? Whatever you can name whatever you can name, you can distance yourself from. But if you can't name it, you have no ability to impact it. And many of us live in this thing, called denial, right? We just live in that thing of denial, Well, I don't want to say, this person's like this, because I don't want to criticize them, and, everybody has their own opinion, and, all those things. I want you to start getting really in touch with the things that you know that aren't so. See, it's not the things that you know that hurt you. It's the things that ain't so that you know that hurt you. And that's denial. And so here's Elijah the prophet. And Elijah was a master of atmospheres. He was a master of impacting atmospheres. He was a master of changing atmospheres. He was a master of dealing with atmospheres. And there was a ruling atmosphere that came in the presidency of Israel. The kings, actually. The king of Israel. And this was one of the most wicked, evil atmospheres of a king that's ever been. It's kind of like, the old song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. It was like, Ahab went down to Israel. And here's Elijah. And he realizes with this king, if he's in charge, and his evil wife, Jezebel, is in charge, there will be a drought of God's love, blessing, and provision in the land. People are going to be living under this. And so, it's one thing to be able to say, there's some issues, there's some problems, I'm not really sure, we just need to band together. There's a whole other thing to call it out. When you call it out, you're bringing the problem to a head. And you're saying to yourself, whether I say it to anybody else or not, I'm going to admit to myself that this atmosphere is killing us. And a lot of times we want to go admit it to the other people, right? We want to go and tell other people what they're doing that's hurting us. But the first thing we have to do is to tell ourselves and own it within our own selves, because you can't change anybody. You can't get them to do this or not do that in order that you'll change your atmosphere. Your atmosphere is completely and totally independent of theirs. If you let it and receive something different. So it says, as the Lord God lives, the God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, it's like, man, I mean this. I'm standing up for calling it out. Surely there shall be neither dew nor rain these years. There's a drought spiritually, and that's going to be reflected by a drought physically. So my question is, their word was drought. What word is around you? Their word was drought. What word is around you? So, we have parents, right? We have children. We have co-workers. We have friends. We have sisters. We have brothers. We have neighbors. And it's impossible to really love them, okay, if I'm always subject to their atmosphere, their feelings, their opinions, right? Because if I always feel overtaken by other people's attitudes, ideas, opinions, what they live in, okay, if I always feel overtaken by that, I will fight the person instead of changing the atmosphere. And fighting the person never changes the atmosphere. But changing the atmosphere changes you. And that's what you really want, right? That's what you really want. You want to change your experience. And if you change your experience like Jesus, everywhere Jesus went, he was healing, so he gave healing. He was provision, so he gave provision. Like, he wasn't mad at the disciples for not bringing food to feed the 5,000. Okay, you feel me in this? It wasn't like, man, you guys didn't plan. It's not like, hey, you guys are sorry staff. I need to fire you and get some other staff. It wasn't that. It wasn't any of those things. It was, hey, these people are hungry. God, I know that I can receive, I can call the hunger, and I can receive provision for this hunger. I don't have to have anybody else give me anything in order for me to give them what you're giving me. So what word is around you? What word is in you? And I want to say this, and this is kind of hard to hear sometimes. A lot of times, we're fighting other people's negativity. We're fighting other people's anger. We're fighting against other people's opinions, other people's restrictions, other people's moods, other people's droughts, right? Other people's addictions, other people's lack of peace, all those things, okay? And we get so rowdy about it, right? Man, I'm gonna just attack this. And really, the issue I found in me is the reason I want to go against it is not because I love them so much, I want them to be free. Like I used to think I was that loving, but I don't really think I am anymore. But what I really want is to be free of their atmosphere. Does that make sense? I want you to be free of the atmosphere so I can be free of the atmosphere. That is the opposite of God's plan. That never works. 100% of the time, that always fails. And so if something fails 100% of the time, here's the stupidest, craziest, dumbest principle. When you don't know what to do the opposite of what doesn't work. So I want you to be free of this atmosphere so that I can be free of it. No. Even if you've got it all from them, you've been working for these people for this many years and they never do anything that you want them to do or whatever it is. I've got to start it the opposite way. I've got to become free of everything that's affecting them. And so my freedom becomes more contagious than their atmosphere. So their word was drought. What is your drought word? What is your drought atmosphere? What is that? And then I got to come to God first. I've got to receive it for myself before I can try to give it to anybody else. So when I receive it, I find my force field. Anybody watched any decent starships lately? Any kind of movie? Any kind of decent starship? Well, Star Wars came out recently. Maybe see Star Wars. In that movie, the movie's hilarious because I'm watching Star Wars. I love me some Star Wars, man. But the whole movie was just this one ship slowly going away and the other ship's chasing it. And what they're dealing with is they kept on shooting at the hero, the rebel forces ship, but they had this force field, right? And the force field generator was there, but whenever they got to the place when they were going to run out of power, the force field would go down. Man, we got to keep it. We got to keep enough power to keep the force field up. And then here comes the incoming, and I'm going to switch to a different sci-fi thing. I get them all mixed up. But when the photon torpedo comes in, right? It brings it down to Captain. Little Scotty, right? Captain, Captain, the force field is down to 50%. You know, and when you've lived in that atmosphere all your life, you don't have any force field left. You're down like 50% to 30%. Like by the time you were 5 years old, you had no force field left. And you've never felt a sense of protection. And so everybody else has got to change so that you can have peace. But that's not God's plan. God's plan is that you come to Him and receive from Him. And it says, the word of the Lord. I love this because my one word, I'm looking for a word. The word of the Lord came. And so when you're looking, God, what's my word this year, God? What's my force field word? The Lord came to him saying, the word of the Lord came to him saying, go away from here. And sometimes you just got to get away. The first step is get away from the bad atmosphere. Get away from it. You don't have to get away permanently. But you got to spend some time away from the pain. And we just kind of want to continue to attack. Continue to try to fix. Continue to try to change it. But God's saying the first step, in order to get with God, you got to get away from the painful atmosphere. So go away from here and turn eastward and hide yourself by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. And it shall be that you shall drink of the brook. Now, it's a drought, famine, and God is telling Elijah where the water is. Oh God, I'm so thirsty. God, would you stop this drought? God didn't have to stop the drought in order to give Elijah the water he needed. And God may not change the atmosphere, but He will provide for you a different atmosphere. He says, go down, and it says the ravens will feed you there. And the most important thing here is that he heard God's word. He heard God's word for him. The specific, engineered, customized word that was the opposite of the atmosphere that was killing him. He says, I've commanded the ravens to provide for you there. Ravens were ceremonially unclean for the Israelis, for the Jews. In our lives, we continue to do things the same way. And we continue to get the same results. And we think like, God, I just want you to provide for me in my life. And God's saying, I want to give you a different life. But if you want to accept a different way of life, ravens, you'll never get the change of the atmosphere. You'll never get the change in your heart that you need. So, a couple of things. The opposite of the atmosphere is always available. It's not like, God, I gotta find it, gotta, When you receive Jesus, you receive life, blessing, health, healing, strength, conquering. You received all of the blessing of God when you received Jesus. Faith activates the alternative atmosphere that already exists in your soul. If I have a full keg of dynamite, I've got it. Faith is the ignition on the fuse that ignites the powder. You already have it. You've been given the powder. You've been given the fire. You've been given what it takes. I've got to be willing to say, God, light me up. Activate what I have. And the belief that you don't have it is the drought that's starving you to death. The belief that somebody else has got to bring it to you is the atmosphere that's choking you. The belief that you already have it and that faith ignites it is the first step. And in the atmosphere of drought, Elijah received abundance. And that was his word. And so I want to say that word to our church right now. I believe this word is going to be a powerful word for you in your life this year. I believe this word, if you don't have another word, try this word out. Because if you're at Rivertown Church, you are in a place that God is infusing abundance into the souls of people. Like if you want to be generous, if you want to help, if you want to give, the first thing you have to believe is abundance. Because abundance says there's enough for me, and there's more for me. And let's look at the next thing. Receive it is find your force field, but then become it. A new identity means the old rules don't apply. New identity means the old rules don't apply. Have you ever met somebody that just didn't seem to function according to the rules of the situation they were in? There's a lot of people like that. They're the difference makers. They're the game changers. You know, if Billy Graham walked in here today, he might function under some different rules. That's all right. Mother Teresa walked in here today, might function under some different rules. If Bill Gates walked in here today, right? He's functioning under some different rules. And think about people, okay? The strength of a person's inner sense of atmosphere has to do with the rules that they believe apply to them. So, there's a rule in this next passage that Elijah just absolutely broke and stepped on. He didn't believe the rules of poverty applied to him any longer after he received from ravens and drank from a brook, the only brook that was running in Israel. Drought had been going on for a long time. Everybody else was skinny. He was fat. The drought had been going on for a long time. Everybody else was thirsty. He was full. The rules of poverty didn't apply to him. The rules of lack didn't apply to him. The rules of the evil that was coming under King Ahab and Jezebel didn't apply to him. See, what Ahab and Jezebel brought into Israel was a false god system. They brought in because Jezebel was from a region away from Israel. In her land, they worshiped Baal only. Baal was a false god that they believed controlled the atmosphere and the weather, the rains, which in a land that's semi-desert, if there's no rain, there's no food. And there's no food, you don't eat. If you don't eat, everybody dies. And so they really gave credence to this God that controlled the atmosphere, the God of weather. So it's powerful for Elijah to say, I'm telling you the God is saying, the God of Israel is saying, no, it doesn't matter how much you worship your false God, the true God is not bringing rain until you worship him. If you seek after a false source, you'll never get the real source. He's coming into this atmosphere and he's saying, this atmosphere of Baal worship doesn't apply to me. This atmosphere that we've got to somehow appease the gods and be good enough and try to do everything right to appease this false god, this political regime, doesn't apply to me. And so the word came to him and said, get up here from the Cherith brook and get up there and you go to a new place. It says, for the word of the Lord came to him saying, arise and go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon. Now this is the same region where evil Queen Jezebel was from. And think about how powerful that is. You're saying that, man, it's just this. You ever notice that sometimes a person becomes just so demonized? They're like in your mind, they're even worse than they're already bad, but in your mind they become so much worse. And so everybody's thinking, like, man, she just comes from this place where they don't worship Yahweh and all the good people are just, is so awful. You ever notice that in our world, we want to pick heroes and we want to pick villains, and God wants to pick love? So he goes in, and he goes to the area she's from. And God says, go there. Arise and go to the source of all these things. Face it. Deal with it. And stay there. And behold, I've commanded a widow there to provide for you. A widow to provide for you. Widows were notoriously the whole image of poverty and destitution during that time. It says, and he went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, immediately a widow he saw gathering sticks. There's just the leftovers of anything she could find. And he called to her and said, please bring me a little water in a jar that I may drink. First thing he did that broke the rules, and a different set of rules, is this. He asked for something to come from nothing. He asked for a resource to come out of a person who had no resources. And in our day and time, it would be like, immediately, people would start tweeting about this. Like hypocritical prophet of Yahweh steals water from widow. And it says, as she was going, so again, like it wasn't just, hey, give me some water in a land with no water. It was, bring me some food too. In order to ask for water and food from her, he had to believe that the rules of the drought no longer applied to the house that he was in. Like, I have become abundance here for this drought. And wherever I go, God has always provided. And in this place of drought, in this home of the source of the evil, that I'm coming into this land here, when I come here, the drought is ended. Because I'm carrying with me, I'm hosting the presence of the living God with me, and there's never any drought with God. There's always abundance with God. He had to believe that she would have something. And she says, bring me a little bread in your hand. In your hand. Like, no, it's going to come out of your hand. You're going to have so much that there's some for you and for me. In verse 12 it says, but she said, as the Lord your God lives, I have no bread. And I want you to feel this in the sense in which I believe the pain was there. As the Lord your God lives, I have no bread. You feel that? What would you say I have no of? As the Lord your God lives, I have no bread. Only a handful of flour in the bowl, and a little oil in the jar. And behold, I'm gathering a few sticks that I may go in and prepare for me and my son, and we'll eat it and we'll die. What'd you do? God told you to receive from somebody that they would receive and you would receive, but they didn't believe that they had anything. How about you? At that moment, I said, it's fine. It's good. It's good. Your son, you just have all that. It's like, I'm good. Like I do that all the time, you guys. As soon as I come in contact with the person who says, like, no, I don't have all. Like, no, it's good. It's good. It's all good. It's not God's will that we're that way. But it's our response to other people's pain, the atmosphere they're living in. If he would have said, no, it's fine, you just keep everything, you just eat your last meal and you die. If he would have done that, he would have given up his atmosphere of abundance for her atmosphere of drought. So, and what's powerful here is this. Do you notice? Notice next his response to her pain. Then Elijah said to her, do not fear. Go and do as you've said. But make a little bread cake from it first. And bring it to me. And afterward, you may make one for yourself and your son. There are people all around you that believe they have nothing. They believe they're failing. They believe that their pain will always be there. They believe their sickness will always be there. Believe that their relationships will never work out. Right? The worst thing you can do for them is to believe the same thing about them. The worst thing you can do for them is to believe when they say, I've got nothing to give you, is for you to believe they have nothing to give you. It's more fun, honestly. Isn't it more fun to be the one who provides than to call provision out of others? I'd be like, oh God, I would want to be flipping the scripture upside down here. I'd say, oh God, give me something to give to this widow and her son, God, so that I can look like an amazing prophet, so that they can write about me, and so that I can be the one who provides, God. Because you know, God, I'm the rescuer of all people, God. And oh God, give me something that I can give to her, God. And God, I know that, God, I'm supposed to be the one who does it, God. That's who I am. I'm the giver. Do you hear how much that is like me trying to be God for somebody? And instead of calling God to be God for her. And now, men, we need to take a little clue from this, okay? Ooh. Do you know what is the most petrifying, scary, terrifying thing that a man ever experiences? Is a woman's emotions. You have to be some kind of man. You have to have dealt with a lot of your own garbage and issues, right? I heard a lady say this the other day. She said, it takes a man who has worked through all of his own garbage to sit with a woman in pain and not say, I unloaded the dishwasher. Right? To not say like, see what I did? You shouldn't feel this way. I've got to tell you, it's an area of weakness for me. But look at Elijah's power here. He did not argue with her. He didn't say, you know, if you really believe God, you wouldn't feel that way. He didn't say, don't say that. He didn't say, see what you're doing to us? See all those things? He didn't say. But you know what I've done? I've said all of those. To my family and to everybody else. And this passage, it just convicts me and shows me. So, the reason he was able to say, do not fear, and it worked, is because he wasn't afraid. The person who says, stop being afraid, is the one that's saying this. Would you stop being afraid because you're making me afraid? And he didn't say, you better do what I said. He just said, come on into my atmosphere. Come on in. There's rain over here. Come on, there's rain over here. Your drought can't compete with my rain. You can stay in the drought, it's fine. But when you're ready, honey, I've got some water for you. Whenever you get thirsty, I've got something for you. Just get it all out. Just get it all out. And I've got something for you. And think about the power of you and me being that to every hurting person in the world. Believing so much in the atmosphere that God's giving us that we're not threatened by anybody else's atmosphere. And so let's walk through a couple of these things. He says, in an atmosphere of drought, Elijah became abundant food and water. The rules of drought didn't apply to him. And so you teach what you know. He didn't say, let me teach you how to have faith. Did he do that? Let me teach you how to go and plant something. And he didn't say, I'll tell you what we do. This is so much of a man, okay? Let me tell you what, Elijah, I'm glad he didn't do this. He didn't say, you're in the wrong place. You and me should go back down over here to the brook Cherith, and we should wait for the ravens to come because I know how to get it. You just need to do what I tell you. Just do what I do. No. It wasn't that. See, you teach what you know, and then people can apply it if they're able to. But you impart who you are. In that imparting, you're becoming something. It's different. You multiply who you are. Other people around you become more like the person, not that you say that you are, but the person that you actually are. And here's the point. You keep changing until your atmosphere does. Sir, ma'am, you just keep changing until your atmosphere does. Don't come against the people in a different atmosphere. Don't argue with them. Don't be threatened by them. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to save them. Don't try to heal them. Because most of that's selfish. You just keep changing until your atmosphere does. And here's another thing. You got to protect your no so you can release your yes. What did he say no to? He said no to the shame of being a person who called something out of nothing. That could be a lot of shame in that. See, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be that guy that they're going to talk about me and say that I asked for some water and some bread from a widow who had nothing. They're going to talk about me. He said no to all that. He said no to even that opinion of him becoming his own opinion of him. He said no to her opinion of him becoming his opinion of him. You got to protect your no so you can release your yes. And this is very powerful. What he knew about that situation was this. Is that she needed to give what she needed in order to receive what she needed. What do you need? And how powerful would it be for you to, instead of thinking about what you need, think, if I need this, God, the first thing you give me, if I have anything of what I need, God, I want to believe so powerfully in abundance. I want to believe so powerfully in your word that I will give away what I need because I believe that you will give me more. So powerfully in that. God, I need time. So God, I'm going to activate your resources of time by giving away time. God, I need money. God, I believe so powerfully that you are going to put money in my life that I'm going to give away some. I'm not saying that's a rule that you have to do that. It's not like some legalistic thing you have to do that. But when I have done it, it has released things in my heart and my life. I've given away things I've needed, and I've gone and I've cried about it. And then I've seen God break through and come through because I had to ignite that one thing, giving away the thing I need, even if it's my last one, ignited the dynamite faith inside me, the faith of abundance against the atmosphere of drought. And see, guys, remember the I am? Remember Jesus' I am statements? I am the light of the world. He didn't say, I have some light. He didn't say, I know where some light is. He says, I am the light. He said, I am the salt of the earth. Not like I have some salt, I know where some salt is. I am the salt. He said, you are the salt. I am and you are. I am and you are. Jesus was constantly in the process of receiving his identity from the Father and transferring his identity to the people around him. And see what Elijah did in this moment? That I'm a man of abundance. I'm transferring my identity with God, my identity of abundance, to your identity of drought. So in this moment, Jesus is able to say, I am. I am. So have you ever had to repot a plant? Anybody ever repotted a plant? You got this little bitty like half gallon, little container, little bucket. And what happens is after a while, the roots are growing, and 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 eventually it becomes something called root bound. Right? When you get to the place where all of those roots come in, and they take up all the dirt in the container, all that dirt in the container. And when you get to that place where your roots have totally taken over the dirt, then God takes you and he transplants you to a new place with more resources and more room. But we're still bound up in that same root-bound container, and the old rules of the old container don't apply in the new container. And Elijah was living in a new container, and he came in and he said, hey, I've got bigger roots, I've got more opportunity, and I can come into this situation of drought, and I can spread my roots out here, and you can experience something different here. And the old rules of the old container don't apply, because all the dirt has been absorbed by my roots. All the resources have been absorbed, and I've got a new container, and I can spread it out bigger. And in your life right now, God, where is the place in your life that you can say, God, I need these to get bigger? The roots have got to come out of this little root-bound container and grow bigger and grow larger. And so I receive it and I become it so that I can release it. And releasing expectation is everything. Expectation is everything. And he ends it by this in verse 14. He says, thus says the Lord God of Israel, the bowl of flour shall not be exhausted, nor shall the jar of oil be empty. He said, I know you feel exhausted, but there's more. I know you feel empty, but there's more. Until the day the Lord sends rain on the face of the earth. So she went and did according to the word of Elijah. And she and all her household ate for many days. The bowl of flour was not exhausted, nor the jar of oil ever become empty, according to the word of the Lord which he spoke through Elijah. Expectation is everything. So extend your roots today into the whole container that God is giving you to live in. And so there's a person you work with, extend your roots. There's a family member that lives with you, extend your roots. There's a friend that's having trouble, extend your roots. Let your atmosphere be the biggest atmosphere in the room. Abundance is the belief that there's more. Without the belief that there's more, you'll always stop growing. And if you stop giving, you stop growing. If you stop giving, you stop growing. And without a belief that there's more, you'll always stop. You'll be stopped forever. So in the midst of drought, the emptiness, what is your word of abundance for you? Like a doctor, God's calling you to release the opposite of the sickness and pain in the atmosphere around you. Can we just stand up today as we close? She was living according to a certain history, but Elijah treated her according to her destiny. Elijah treated her according to her destiny. She didn't trigger him into her atmosphere. He triggered her into his. And so, if I go out today, I can act like everyone I meet can have what I have. Wouldn't that be a powerful thing? For you to be walking around in abundance or walking around in your word for the year, and you release into everyone around you, you act like they can have what you have. You You don't have to be concerned that they can't have it. You can be sure that they can have it. And you can't give it to them, but you can walk in it so powerfully in the atmosphere around you that when they're thirsty, they'll know where to go. When they don't know what to do, they'll know where to go. When they're hungry, they'll know where to go. But if you enter into their atmosphere, you'll have nothing when they're ready to receive. Arguments never alter atmospheres. I've argued with so many people so many times. I've argued with my own self. You know, I've argued with the dog. I've argued with everything. Arguments never alter atmospheres. Demonstrations do. Demonstrations alter atmospheres. And so, for the person with no peace, you just come in, you've got all that peace. You've got the shalom of God. You know, for the person that says, man, I don't have any money. I don't know how to pay my bills. You come in and you say, you know, God gives us everything. I don't know where yours is coming from, but I know that God is the only person who can give it. And you just, once you believe that, expectation is everything. Expectation is everything in that moment. He said, as surely as the Lord God lives, like if there's a God, then He's going to provide. As surely as the Lord God lives, if there's a God, I can release this atmosphere. I can change the atmosphere with my one word. I can change the atmosphere with my one word. And a lot of times we walk around looking for the fire, right? We want to get warmed by the fire. We want to cook by the fire. We want somebody else's fire, right? We want somebody else's fire. Can somebody give me some fire? God says, don't look for fire, become a fireplace. Don't look for fire, become the fireplace. And if you become the fireplace, God provides the fire. If you become the fireplace, God provides the fire. If you become the fireplace, God provides the fire. And at the end of this chapter, it was time to finally face down the source of the drought. He said, there'll never be any rain except for by my word. And on top of Mount Carmel, there was a showdown. And Ahab brought all of his forces to bear. They brought the conflict to the surface. And at the right time, your conflict is coming to the surface. And your word will prevail. And so, on the top of that mountain, they were going to worship the false god of Baal. And they were going to say, God's going to bring the rain. The false god is going to bring the rain. He's going to bring the rain. The false god will provide. The atmospheric God will provide. And Elijah was so happy because he knew there was no Baal. He knew there was nothing there. They wept and they screamed, the false prophets did. They cut themselves and they screamed and they wailed. And Elijah just laughed and laughed and laughed and he laughed. And he said, hey, maybe Baal's asleep. Maybe he's going on a long trip. Yell louder, yell louder, yell louder. And against 850 false prophets, he was one man that stood alone because they had drought and he had abundance. They had falseness and he had truth. And in that moment, he had not one moment of fear because he had God's word. He had the right word at the right time. And he said, the God who answers by fire to this altar fireplace, He's God. When everybody just believe that, the God who answers by fire, He's God. Arguments don't change atmospheres. Demonstrations of a new atmosphere is what changes things. And so around that whole altar, he said, just do anything you want. He said, now douse it all with water, make it hard to burn. Dig a trench around it so the water stays in it. And he prayed, and the true God of heaven answered with fire and filled up his fireplace with fire. So for you today, you say, God, I want to be your fireplace, God. I believe in your fire. I want to be your fireplace. I want to host your fire. I want to have your atmosphere, God, for me, God. What's my word of a new atmosphere for my life? What's my word of a new atmosphere for my life? And when everything was over, when the truth had been revealed, he said, look out there on the horizon. Look, there's a cloud coming. Ladies and gentlemen, at Rivertown Church, there's a cloud coming on the horizon. A cloud of abundance, a cloud of blessing, a cloud of strength, a cloud of power, a cloud of healing, a cloud of anointing, a cloud of God at work in His house. There's abundance in the house of God. There's abundance in the house of God. There's strength up till I take care of you. You better come in. It's time for you to get down from the mountain. Because pretty soon when the rains come, it's going to be too much rain. It's going to be too much blessing. You're not even going to be able to get down from the mountain. There's going to be so much blessing in the house of God. God's going to totally overwhelm your drought with his abundant rain that anybody who's living in a different atmosphere is going to drown. And I don't want you to drown in the new atmosphere. God's coming. And when the rains came, all the people in the family of God, all the people of Israel, all of them said, truly Yahweh is God. Truly Yahweh is God. And the purpose of releasing the new atmosphere is so that people will believe truly Yahweh is God. Not for you to provide something for them, but for they just like the widow of Zarephath, go back to their kitchen. And like she went back to her kitchen and found more oil and found more flour, they went out and they found the rain. Bring the rain, God. Bring the rain. The rain is coming. The rain is coming. Can we just worship God in this moment?